I think in regards to relationships, you kind of just, it's so hard because you're so in the thick of things, and you're so, like, when you're in it, it's so tunnel vision. It's really hard to sort of look outside of that and focus on the ridiculous scenarios.
Do you feel since adding a baby into the mix you've lost connection with your partner? Or do you feel stressed that you and your partner are on different pages of a completely different book? Don't worry, you're not alone. This is exactly how today's guest was feeling as a new mom. Before kids, her and her husband had a very consistent schedule, and their priority and focus were on each other. After kids, she found they really struggled to connect because they were both in this kid survival mode where they were learning to be new parents and dealing with the challenges of children and getting stuck in this rut of how to reconnect and in these new roles. But then through lots of communication, therapy, and buying a daily prompt journal, she realized it was possible to reconnect after all. She then went on to create what she calls Mom Break, and has helped so many moms feel confident to share all sides of the story and reconnect with their partners. I'm so excited for this topic as it has been highly requested in our Facebook group, but there's a lot of great content here, so we've actually split it up into 2 parts, so be sure to check out part 2 next week. But without further ado, let's check out my interview with the amazing and hilarious mom of 2, Erica.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited about this topic because it's near and dear to my heart. So let's chat away.
Well, first, let's just hear a little bit about you.
I am a mom of 2. I have spunky kids, or I try to say spirited kids. That's the sort of positive words I've been trying to use to describe it lately. A 4-year-old who's extremely spirited. She's awesome and will take over the world one day if she doesn't kill me first. And a really cute little 1.5-year-old that doesn't know how to sit still. And I'm in Ottawa, Canada, and I have a blog called Mom Break, as well as a podcast called Mom Blogging Unplugged.
So jumping right in, what is Mom Break and how did you come up with the idea for it?
So Mom Break is all about trying to normalize some of the challenges and successes and struggles of parenting. I started it about 3 years ago now, and at that point in my life, I was home on maternity leave with my first child, and the world of blogging was still kind of in that period where people were only posting pictures of themselves with their kids on their white sheets with their jeans and their children. I'm like, this is not how my day looks. I can't relate to this because if I'm in bed sitting still with my children, I'm in dirty old clothes that have puke on them. My background is in marketing. I wanted to do a passion project while I was on mat leave, and I just started this blog on a whim to share my side of the journey with motherhood. And some of that's not the most beautiful. And some of it's really fantastic. It's the most amazing experience, but it's also, I get yelled at a lot throughout the day. So I share that too. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what Mom Break is all about, is just sharing the whole picture, not just one side of the story. Mm-hmm. There's so many people who use Instagram specifically as maybe a creative outlet where they show the highlight reel, and that's great for them. But in some situations, that leaves other moms feeling like maybe they're doing something wrong. And I think that's how I felt at that point in time. And that probably says more about me than them. But it was just, that's how the journey began for Mom Break.
So next, one of the biggest topics. So what are the biggest challenges that occur between you and a partner when you bring a baby into the picture?
You know what? It's so funny because people warn you before you have kids, all these things, right? They say, I'm going to be so tired. Things with your partner is going to change. And of course, if you're pregnant or before you start just trying to have a family, you're like, that won't happen to me. It's fine. And you don't really realize until you're in the thick of it with your partner how much it truly rocks every part of your life. So it rocks, like you have to decide on all of these new things and compromises. So who's doing bedtime routine? How are you balancing and dividing the new responsibilities in the house? How do you do that on no sleep? And and I mean, I'm kind of referring to the newborn stage because it's so fresh to me. But that was one of those things where it hit me so hard. And it was little things like, I just was like, I wish my husband would do that. And then if he didn't magically know to do it, I would just like sit at home and stew and get so mad at him. I'm like, why didn't he empty the goddamn diaper genie? How did he not know? He saw that it was full. He ran the last diaper in. So I don't understand why he didn't know that I wanted him to empty the diaper genie. And then I would get mad and it would spiral and then you wouldn't sleep and then the baby would cry and then you would just have a blow up. It's a fun cycle. I enjoy it.
So kind of going along with that, when you kind of were realizing like, okay, there's a new thing going on, like we need to figure out how to work together in this, what was the transition like?
Okay, so this is really interesting. And I don't know how many people this strategy would work for, but it's worked really, really, really well for us. And it started because, so we have 2 kids. So our first kid, we kind of just like trudged along. It was nice because we were playing more of a zone defense. We both sort of got breaks because, you know, when one person was putting the kid to bed, the other person was just passed out sleeping, and you could divide and conquer more easily. Whereas then once we had 2 kids, we're playing man-to-man defense at that point, and no one ever gets to rest. It built up for years of, we'll deal with it. And then by the time the second kid hit, all of these like lack of communication and who's going to do what responsibility all just sort of went and exploded in front of us. It all started because I actually started going on my own therapy journey. So I went to therapy forever for like postpartum depression and anxiety, but that's a whole other thing. But my therapist gave me a really good idea. I was sitting there stewing and constantly being really bitter and really resentful with him because things weren't divided equally, which they never will be. But I was really pissed off at the inequality that women have to do so much more. I was frustrated that he would walk by things on the stairs and not pick them up on his way up. Like all of these little things I was so mad at him for. And she said something to me one day that was like, well, did you ask him to do these things? Did you talk about it? I'm like, but he should know. She's like, well, should he? Like, no, like I know he should know. Like, well, he's not really a mind reader. I'm like, but he should be. I spent so much time being just bitter that he wasn't a mind reader until it finally clicked. What I wanted was for him to do these things in my mind. That my goal was to get him to do these things. And if I just asked him and sucked up my pride, he would do them. And I was like, this is my moment of my epiphany. I'm just going to ask him. And then because he's a good, kind, he's an amazing human being. And I am lucky, but he just does them. Like, cause I asked and I told him what I needed. It's so simple, but it's crazy because I spent so much time just expecting him to do them. I think in regards to relationships, you kind of just, it's so hard because you're so in the thick of things and you're so, like when you're in it, it's so tunnel vision. So it's really hard to sort of look outside of that and focus on the ridiculous scenarios. But you kind of have to. Otherwise, it's like you look back. I mean, I look back at the last 4 years and I'm like, where the heck did time go? I hate that my parents and grandparents are right about the fact that time goes by so quickly. I'm like, damn them, they were right.
Thanks so much for tuning in this episode of Mom Talks with Krista. Be sure to come back next week for part 2, where Erica shares her top relationship tips that really worked for her and her husband, and you can start implementing right away. Plus, access to an exclusive program she designed to help couples just like you reconnect. As always, you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Mommy Knows Best. And if you're craving some community, please check out our private Facebook group, Mommy Knows Best Judgment Free Mom Tribe. The link is in the description below.